in fact, what I'd like to do is share with you the story of Challis, which is an amazing story of hope for children who reside in a community that is full of disadvantage. And this is really a story of what a group of very dedicated people have done and are doing every single day of the week in difficult circumstances to meet the needs of children. Because our hope at Challis is that we create a story for the children that isn't indicative of their postcode. So for those of you who know Armidale, we tend to be on the front page or the inside cover of many news reports for not great things happening. In actual fact, at our school, we believe we can break the stereotype of what's happening for these children and what's happening in Armidale more generally. And that starts with a way of thinking. Our reach and our influence extends well and truly beyond the school gates. And so we think of the child in terms of holistically what they need within their family and holistically what their family needs. And we've set out to do things quite differently. And I'll explain why as we go along. So our postcode is 6112. I'm going to spend very little time talking about the difficulties because I much prefer to spend the majority of the talk on talking with you about what we've done to overcome those barriers for the children. So here are the difficulties. The children, many of them are raised in homes where there is a single parent. The parents are young. They don't have an extended family network to draw on. They have limited understanding and capacity of how to parent. There are extreme mental health issues. There are extreme drug and alcohol addiction that either starts as a mental health issue and they self-medicate, or the other way around. There's a fair degree of crime. I've been there 16 years, not 13, I've been there 16 years. I was pregnant with my son, who turned 16 this year when I was first appointed to the school. And even as recently as yesterday, a mum came in to say, Mrs. Musumeci, can I please talk with you about the care arrangements for my children? I'm due to be sentenced on Wednesday of next week. And these are the care arrangements that I've put in place. Can you please make sure that they're fulfilled? So they're the realities for the children. What that looks like in terms of their everyday care is that there isn't enough money in homes to meet their basic needs. There isn't enough food to feed them, so they come to school very hungry. There isn't the money to necessarily pay for most of them are in school uniform. They're actually all well presented in school uniform, but there isn't always electricity to power a washing machine to wash the uniform. So the children will be in the same uniform, same clothes day in, day out, quite often without wearing underwear. Very few of them will have pyjamas. And I'm only spending this time talking to you about this, not to upset you, but to help you to understand why expecting parents to pay for a musical instrument is never going to happen in our community and why it's so important that we do something differently as a school. So they're all the kinds of problems. What that means then in terms of brain architecture is that the children, some of them were born addicted to methamphetamine when they're in utero. So by the time they are born, the damage with the neural pathways is already evident. And it didn't matter how fantastic the teaching was at the school when I first arrived, the children's brain architecture wasn't in a position to be able to absorb and make the connections as far as their language is concerned as a result of all of that great teaching. So my first couple of years that I was there, I was walking around thinking, why these kids aren't reading? Why can't they read? Why does our, in those days, Walna, now NAPLAN results look so poor? Why aren't they just absorbing it? The teachers are teaching really well, the teachers are caring, they're doing wonderful things in classrooms, there's excursions and incursions and art and craft activities, and they're explicitly, well, no, they weren't explicitly teaching, now they do explicitly teach. They had a lovely play-based philosophy as to how they would encourage the children to read and immerse them in language, and yet our results never improved. I was leading a failing school. That's the harsh reality. Huge amounts of goodwill, brilliant teachers, loved the children, parents trusted the teachers, children trusted the teachers. I was leading a failing school. So what happens for the kids is that they don't actually get what they need. Doesn't matter what we're talking about, whether it's food or therapy or time or whatever it might be, a play date, whatever it is, they don't actually get what they need, but they get stuff. Stuff gets bought for them. Usually electronic stuff. It keeps them quiet. So what happens is I initially started going to the year 3 teachers like all principals do, this is years ago before I knew better. Why aren't our NAPLAN results good? What's happened with our NAPLAN? Oh, you have to go and talk to the year 2 teachers. They're not doing their job properly, is what the year 3s would say to me. I've rounded up all the year 2. What's happening with the year 3 NAPLAN results? Why are their reading comprehension's really low? Well, Lee, they can barely decode when they come to us. Go and talk to those year 1s. You can see what happens. Year 1s, you really need to be teaching the children how to read better. We need to work more on the letter-sound relationship. These kids can't read, and they can't read, they can't decode, they can't comprehend. They say, don't you talk to us, go back to the pre-primaries and so on. So when I get to the kindies, the kindy teachers know everything. You get to the kindergarten teachers and they'd say, these children haven't been played with. Do something about helping parents to play with their kids. So the more I dug around, did a million home visits, tried to work out what was happening in our community, I understood that there wasn't enough happening in our community to support parents. So I'll go on and talk to you a little bit in a moment about what we've done to resolve that. So about 9 years ago, I thought if I'm really going to make a difference to a school that's failing, I need to come up with some broad strategies that are going to take a long time to achieve. They're going to need to be well funded, and I can't take my eye off the ball. We can bend and twist, but essentially these are the 3 strategies. First strategy, I think we needed to develop a comprehensive support service for parents from the time they were born through until the time the children were 3 years of age. So that was the first thing I thought we needed to do. I understood a lot about brain development, and I knew that those first 3 years are vitally important for children, and if we're going to change the life trajectory of our children, we needed to start super early, and kindergarten's not early enough. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing, we're still doing, the second thing that we had to do was make sure that we improved the quality of teaching in every classroom. So I wanted to go back and have a look at what the research says is the most important way or the most effective way to teach children to read. I expect that when I go to the doctor, if I have an illness, he or she will give me a treatment that the science says gives me the best possible chance of recovering. So I didn't feel as though we had the opportunity with our kids to waste a minute of our teaching. So we relied very heavily on what the research says around the most effective way to teach kids to read. And we at that point in time, narrowed our focus right down to making sure classroom teachers were specialists in literacy, numeracy and social skill development, and then the specialists could teach the specialist areas. And we developed the distributed leadership model so that all of the leadership and the understanding and the ways of working wasn't tied up just in the formal leadership group. Do you remember I said all of the difficulties? Now I'm going to tell you the solutions. So it's a really simple stuff. If the kids are hungry, they're not going to learn. So really basic stuff for 15 years ago was making sure a breakfast club was in school. We feed 150 children each week for their breakfast. Most will also make their own sandwich and make their lunch at that particular time, and many will ask the lovely volunteers if they'll make them some food ready for dinner. So the children will, come with a plastic bag and they'll put a couple of pears and a banana or something in there. Not a banana, they go off too quickly. Maybe a pear and an apple, orange, something, and take some sandwiches, and that will also be their food for dinner that night. It's actually a story of inspiration, but it's actually quite heartbreaking because I'm hoping you're understanding the level of disadvantage. So when people say, oh, the school is lucky, we were lucky in many ways, and so we should be, because this is not a level playing field for these children. They actually need a lot more in order to have any chance of being equal. We bought a school car many years ago, and that was to address the lack of attendance. So I'm a very compassionate person, but I do draw a line at some point in time. So if we've worked with parents on trying to break down the barriers as to why their children aren't at school, and we've put in strategies like we'll come and collect you in the morning, but we expect you, mum, to come and collect them in the afternoon to take them back home again. At some point in time, there's a line drawn in the sand, and we then make a referral to CPFS. But we do as much as we possibly can, because the big stick doesn't actually have much whack to it. You can't really change people's behaviour by walloping them, I don't believe. I believe walking alongside them and understanding their journey, their pain, their difficulties is the only way that you can help support people to make a behaviour change. And so we do everything we possibly can, including picking them up, taking them to school, taking them to medical appointments, In 2009, we opened what's now referred to as the Challis Parenting and Early Learning Centre. It's a massive centre that co-locates and integrates all of the health and education and therapy services that mums, dads and bubs need. So we have a full-time child health nurse, and the way the model works is like this. I've just had a baby. I live within the Challis boundary. The nurse who is located at Challis will be informed from the hospital. The nurse will come out to my house for a visit within the first 6 weeks, and she'll take with her one of our staff members. She's a family support worker. We've got extra fund. I found extra funding so I can employ 2 of them. So the family support worker and the nurse go out, introduce themselves to mum, make themselves known to mum, let mum know that they're there to support them, to support her with whatever she might need. They'll do all of whatever the nurse has to do in those first 6 weeks, all of the different checks they have to do. The next time mum comes in, which is around about the 10-week, 12-week stage, she comes to school. So she's already met one of the school staff members because she went on the visit. Then when she comes to school, she sees that same nurse and that same school staff member, and she'll do her postnatal depression screen. They'll do the attachment stuff around breastfeeding, and she'll then at that point in time be introduced to all of the other mums who've just had their babies in roughly that same period. So suddenly all these mums are beginning to connect with each other. The second developmental group is called Stay and Play, and really that's just a classroom that's carefully and intentionally arranged around fine motor and socialisation type activities, lots of craft activities, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of language opportunities, huge amounts of modelling by the family support workers to the parents. There's a nurse, there's a psychologist, there's a social worker, there's all kinds of people inside those groups. So by the time they get to 4-year-old kindy, we've known them for 3 years, the majority of the children. All of their speech and OT stuff has been screened, the paediatrics have all been screened, they've got their diagnosis for a disability if that might be the problem. We understand who has a mental health issue, we understand what's going on in the family, and we can generally support in one way or another. Usually, some cases are super complex, and I'm left scratching my head and can't always support, but we do the very best we can for the sake of the children. I'm all about early intervention. There's a really clear pile of evidence that says if you don't intervene early, you're just remediating and putting band-aids on later. You're all nodding, so I won't go on. So what that has resulted in is the most amazing opportunity. On top of all of the other amazing things that happen at our school, this has been something that makes me cry most times when I think about it, and I already know how everything ends. And it still makes me cry because it's something that actually deeply touches you. I say again, know nothing about music, but I understand how it makes me feel. And I understand the stuff that makes me want to jump around and dance, and I understand the stuff that makes me want to cry. And what I really loved watching was the impact that it had on these children and their families. And that was something that was incredibly special. So these are some scenes that you won't have seen on the documentary. You see our children totally focused.
7 months. I mean, who wasn't playing a brass instrument 7 months ago? You just come ahead so fast. Of course, it's fantastic 7 months, by then you'd want to be at the Perth Concert Hall, wouldn't you?
very cute, but it just sounded beautiful and it brought the whole community together. The parents feel fantastic. They think they're really special. They're very proud of their children, and so they should be. And we're proud of all of them. We're certainly proud of our wonderful Jocelyn and Simon at the back there. Look, everyone asked me about this. This isn't the reason we've put a music program in place. Of course I care about the children's academic results, but what I care more about is the process that they're going through as far as their education is concerned and the experiences that we're giving them. But in case you're a data-driven person, I'll talk to you about their NAPLAN results. So if you have a look in 2014, these are our grammar and punctuation results. 2014, we've moved over here. Oh, sorry, this is the low progress, low achievement grid. No one wants to be in this grid. You don't want your results in this lower left quadrant. Low progress, lower achievement. This is 2014, this is 2015, there's 2016. It's moving to the right area, higher progress, but still low achievement. That's still not what we're wanting. 2017 is here, here's 2018. Higher progress, higher achievement, that's the quadrant every principal wants their results to be in, because that's what gets shown on every bit of website and that's what we're judged by. So we're all trying to get over there. This particular area is writing. Here again, low progress, lower achievement in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. So over there in that high progress, high achievement column, it doesn't look like that for every single curriculum area. We haven't made that much of a difference in every single curriculum area. I'm only showing you the good stuff. We are making progress in every area, but this is the most marked. These are the two most marked areas. We've certainly moved from being a failing school into a school that's actually trying to chase down better than postcode results.